Okay, all right. On the side of the road, right here. This is Hyliatus leucocephalus, aka the bald eagle, aka the symbol for America. Right here, this is a juvenile. You can tell it's a juvenile because it's still got its juvenile colors. Hasn't really had that that nice white head kind of like come in. You see that classic eagle beak, that really prominent notch on its upper jaw or on its upper bill. Is looking at me talking right now like, what the hell are you doing, man? Man, look at them talons though. Raptorial feet, used for snatching things out of the air or out of the water. You go up north, in more northern latitudes, especially up near Alaska, these things are about as common as seagulls. Down here, not so much. Out here in Catalina Island is probably one of the few areas where you can see bald eagles in LA County. I'm sure there are bald eagles in the mountain, but... All right, hello and greetings from Santa Catalina Island, one of the many islands that make up the Channel Islands off the coast of California, specifically Southern California. Where we're at right now is still considered LA County. Over there in the distance is the city of Avalon, the biggest city on any Channel Island. We're about 30 miles west of the coast of mainland California, which is way out there. And this is a special place. It's a special place specifically in terms of what I'm doing here because of the biology. There's a lot of what's called insular species. Insular is like the fancy scientific name for referring to an island. So if you're found on an island, it's pretty much termed insular. And there are many insular species and many insular endemic species that can be found in this island. So I'm sure you can see in the background of this shot right now, you can see a lot of anthropogenic influence. There's, you know, clearings for power lines, roads, obviously. There's human development, resorts, old casinos, boats, etc., etc. So before the Spanish arrived here in the 1500s, these islands were occupied by Native Americans, particularly the Gabrieno, Tongva tribes and everything. But since the Spanish arrived, it's pretty much been kind of like open green light on development. Up until maybe like the 60s or 70s, when, you know, stuff like the EPA came into effect and scientists kept on doing their jobs and figuring out more things about nature, figuring out all the rare species and all the endemic insular species that can be found on these islands. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here to biologize this island and kind of share all the things that I see with all you lovely viewers out there in the YouTube universe. And hopefully as I explore this island, I'll be able to show you those impacts and give you an idea of the present ecology today on the island, and maybe even infer some things about the future ecology of this island. Right now there are a few groups out there that are trying to conserve everything. One of those groups is the Catalina Island Conservancy. They're helping preserve a lot of the rare and endangered species, as well as preventing any future major impacts that humans might have out here. But yeah, so I'm gonna be out here and I'm gonna be all over this island, to be honest. Like, I'm gonna be out on the west side, out on the east side, north side, south side. I'm gonna try to get in as much biologizing as I can, and I'm gonna try to show you as many species as I can, especially the ones that are unique to the island, the insular species and everything like that. So without further ado, let's get the show on the road. Right here in front of me, we have remnants of the native population and vegetation that was here for millennia, or like millions of years probably. And then we also have representations of the introductions that were brought here by Europeans. And all the examples that you're seeing in front of me are all vegetation that can be found on the mainland and everything like that. So like, for example, right here we got this Artemisia californica, aka the California sagebrush. It's a very important plant in coastal sage scrub communities, especially where it's dominant for an endangered species of bird known as the California gnatcatcher. California gnatcatchers like to nest in very dense plots of these, where this plant remains as a dominant plant. Right over here to the right, we got classic cactus, Opuntia littoralis, aka the prickly pear. You know, it's basically your classic cactus. Now I love cactus too. I just love how menacing they look. And I remember as a kid kind of being blown away that these spines are actually just evolutionarily modified leaves adapted to, you know, protecting it from herbivory from some sort of large animal. And just knowing that, you know, a lot of the photosynthesis occurs within the stem portions right here, within the fleshy portions. And it has evolved the means of retaining water in drought-like ecosystems, kind of like out here. Another common plant that's found all throughout California, all throughout the Channel Islands and on the mainland is this one right here. This is Rose integrifolia, aka the lemonade berry. And right now it's the springtime, so they have bloomed, and you're starting to get these little fruits right here. In the family Anacardiaceae, which is the family that includes poison oak and other plants that produce urushiol, which is that chemical that irritates human skin, or will irritate the skin of many humans, including myself. But this one doesn't have urushiol. But yeah, this is also an important plant making up the structural integrity of coastal sagebrush habitats in all of Southern California, actually. So yeah, those are just 3 examples of the native plants and everything, but you can see those basically comprise like kind of the larger shrub layer of everything. When it comes to the introduced plants, it's basically everything in between that. So all this grass species, all this grass is non-native grass. And the one that's by far the most dominant is this right here. This is Bromus madrichensis, otherwise known as the foxtail brome. If you ever ran through a field of grass and you get these little seeds stuck in your pants or in your shoelaces and everything like that, more than likely is this species. By the way, that term is called epizoochry, where plants are using animals to disperse their seeds. So another introduced grass that's making up the matrix in between the shrub community here is this. This is Avena, either fatua or barbatus, aka the wild oat. Notice that it has like these distinct inflorescences. This is probably brought here by accident through like oats from that were used to feed horses and stuff like that, and they just basically escaped and became feral, like many of the feral introduced and invasive grass species in every part of the world, actually. And the last non-native grass that I'm seeing right here is this, and I think this is Lamarckia aurea, otherwise known as golden top grass. I don't know too much about this, but I do know that it's introduced also, I think possibly from Europe and everything. But yeah, so there again, seeing just kind of straight up looking at the veg community that's right here in front of me. We have the remnants of the old native habitat, especially in the shrub layer, very kind of robust in maintaining its structural integrity out here. But then everything else, especially on the ground, and the ground can get easily disturbed. You have these feral species, feral introduced species that have come in here and taken over because they're actually well adapted at disturbed areas, disturbed soils. If you were to come in here and rip all this stuff out, it would disturb it even more, and guess what, that's a favorable condition for these plants to come and recruit and reestablish themselves. So these are some of the common plants that you find out here on the islands, on all the islands, and especially the mainland of California. That's kind of cool, ain't it? Usually when I see them out here, they're not grouped up like this. Actually, it's the first time me seeing them in a giant group like this. All right, there we go. The most famous introduced mammal species here on the island of Catalina. Here we have bison in the Bovidae family. These things were introduced here in the 20s, I think just for shits and giggles. And then since then, they've kind of made a good living out here. And from what I know, the Catalina Island Conservancy is heavily trying to reduce their populations, essentially trying to get rid of them. But they're not doing it like the deer and, using hunters to hunt them. They're actually just like sterilizing new individuals so they can't further breed. Which I'm in agreement with the Conservancy. I don't care what anybody says, like I'm all for restoring the natural ecology of insular systems, in particular, of a Channel Island that's part of my home state. But yeah, bison, Bovidae. All right, so now we're somewhere in the interior of Catalina Island, in the middle, where obviously, as you can see, it's all kind of mountainous, hilly, rocky. But yeah, at first glance, you can see that it kind of looks similar to what we saw before in the beginning of the video, just, with a larger degree of absence of human structures in the background and everything. I mean, you look up there, the airport, there's like one small airport. That's it right there. And obviously you got these transmission lines coming through here. But other than that, there's not much evidence of human activity, at first glance is what I'm trying to say. And then looking at the substrate here, again, it doesn't look much different from what we saw in the beginning of the video. You know, you got those large shrubs. One that's dominant is Rus integrifolia, the lemonade berry. And then in the middle, in between, filling up the space in between these shrubs, you have these grass species right here. And yeah, for sure, you do have a large proportion of non-native grasses. But if you look closer, you'll see that there is a much greater or a higher degree of diversity here than where we were at before. And let's get a look into that right now. Okay, so one clue that you might be in an area that is less abused by the results of human activity is the presence of lichen. And you can see on this rock here, we got this nice crustose lichen covering this rock. And we might have multiple species of different types of lichen. So lichen are basically in the Ascomycota group of fungus. They're technically a fungus, and it basically sequesters either a cyanobacteria or an algae, both of which are photosynthetic organisms. And it'll basically take hold of that, almost in a way enslaving it, in order for it to take advantage of that photosynthesis so it can get the sugars. Yeah, lichen are a pretty much amazing group of organisms to actually look into and everything like that. Just knowing that this relationship happened, you know, probably close to like 1 billion years ago, back when most living organisms were single-celled or tissue-like, multicellular, you know. And then now we have a symbiosis that's basically kind of thriving to this day. I guess I don't want to say thriving because, you know, lichens are actually apparently very sensitive, very susceptible to air pollution. And it's a good thing that, you know, Catalina Island, at least this spot, isn't that affected by a lot of air pollution that you might find, let's say, you know, downtown LA or anywhere, any major city on the mainland. But, you know, the point of me talking about this is that, you know, you see a lot of lichen on the rocks. That's kind of a good idea, kind of a good sign to show you that, you know, things haven't been abused by human activity, essentially. You know, you don't have a lot of kids and people like trying to climb up rocks and take pictures and stuff like that, you know. So there's not a lot of disturbance going on here. So organisms within these groups can essentially thrive. So another sign that you're in an environment that hasn't been abused as much is the presence of mosses, especially when you're in dry climates like out here in the southwestern United States. So right here we have a moss, I believe, is in the genus Anicolia, right? So mosses are in the group Bryophyta, right? So Bryophyta are non-vascular plants, so they don't have the xylem and phloem tissues to transport nutrients and water throughout the plant. They essentially just absorb moisture straight through the air, straight through their tissues. For lack of a better expression, they're kind of a primitive plant, you know. So mosses and liverworts, you know, they're non-vascular plants and everything. So in order to be a non-vascular plant growing in such a dry climate, you know, you got to take advantage of whatever moisture comes by yearly, especially in the winter months when things are moist, and you can harvest that moisture from the air. As the season progresses, everything's going to dry out. These things will look essentially dead, but they won't be dead, because when the next rains come, or when the next, or even from fog, from clouds and everything pushing fog into the area, you know, they can basically extract that moisture from the air too and continue growing. They don't make seeds or anything like that. They essentially make spores. What you're seeing right here in front of you, this is the vegetative portion of it. The what's it called? Is it the gametophyte? I think the technical term is the gametophyte. And oh, right here, there we go. So right here, these little bulbous structures, these are the sporophytes. So these will be releasing spores in order to create the next generation and everything. But yeah, moss is Anicolia. I'm not sure what the species is. If you know what the species, please tell me. Oh, and I just noticed, see, this is why you got to look closer. Mixed in with all these bryophytes, you have this reddish one right here. I believe this is Crassula cannata. It's in the family Crassulaceae, the family of stone crops and Dudleas. This is a very common plant. You can find these, like, you know, on front lawns and stuff like that. But I don't know, I'm just showing you, just to show you, like, you know, the diversity, the kind of micro diversity, if you will, within certain systems like this. Can you imagine, like, if people were just like trampling around everywhere all the time out here, you know, these things wouldn't have a chance to grow and thrive and stuff. So again, you know, like, kind of another clue. Oh, and I just noticed right here that you got more crustose lichen, but this is growing straight up on the soil. And that dark black colored, grayish bluish lichen. Hardly been stepped on is what I'm trying to say. Okay, moving on to the more grassy portions of this habitat around here. Looking closer, again, we got this showy, nice, showy, dainty individual right here. This is Linanthus dianthiflorus, aka the fringed Linanthus. It's in the family Poleminaceae, or the phlox family. Wow, look at that. What is that? Look at that. Hey, that looks sick. Yeah, that style being all like twisty. That is an interesting looking style right there. I wonder why it's shaped like that. I wonder if it has anything to do with what pollinates this, which undoubtedly is probably some insect or something like that, some flying insect. Those colors in the calyx, which is like kind of the area, you know, within the flower and everything, is basically like a sign for whatever pollinator pollinates these things. You know, every flower at the bottom has a nectar source, kind of as a reward to invite a pollinator inside and basically rub against the yellow parts right there, the dark yellow parts. That's the anther, which has all the pollen. And then those styles, the stigma, that's basically in the way too. So when they go to another flower, the pollen that's trapped on that insect gets rubbed out onto the stigma, and then starts the process of pollination, so you can create the next generation. That looks cool though. I like that. But yeah, you know, seeing flowers like this is another sign that you're in a spot that hasn't been abused. Like, this is a native plant and everything, and so it has evolved in this type of habitat, and this is a sign that there just hasn't been a lot of disturbance to this area, human-wise, essentially, in order to decrease the population of these. And they're sprouting around in a bunch of places. You got a couple right there, one over there. There are other species of Linanthus that I've seen in other places where like they can actually cover the ground, kind of like a carpet. It's pretty awesome. Different colors too. It's pretty cool. Anyway, moving on to another plant, getting close up into it. All right, right here in front of you, we've seen this plant before. I think this is Plantago erecta, little baby Plantagos. Plantagenaceae, plantain family. Very common throughout western, southwestern North America. Very common plant. Almost kind of takes the place of grass when it grows annually. But you know, with the introduction of Europeans, you know, we got all this non-native grass. I'm surely that all this grass right here in front of you, that's probably Bromus mandrithensis or some other species of non-native grass. But yeah, again, you know, see, you gotta look closer at things. Things become a little bit more colorful, you know, actually a lot bit more colorful. Oh yeah. Talk about looking closer. Once you start looking closer at things, you start to notice other things. So right here, I found this classic funnel-shaped web. Let me see if I can zoom in. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, it looks like it's eating something too. Can y'all see that? I don't know if y'all can see that. Subphylum Chelicerata, class Arachnida, order Araneae, family Agelenidae, and I think this is a member in the genus Agelenopsis. Agelenidae is the common name for that family is grass spiders. A lot of people mistake them for wolf spiders, and I agree, they do kind of look like wolf spiders, but wolf spiders don't really build webs, you know. Agelinas, they build webs, especially the females, and a lot of the ones that get mistaken for wolf spiders. Stupid plane. This is what I get for biologizing next to an airport. Yeah, a lot of the Agelinas that get mistaken for wolf spiders are the wandering males that are kind of wander around looking for females. Oh, I think I just spooked it. They build this funnel-shaped web, basically kind of act sort of as a trap. You know, they have very sensitive hairs on their legs known as trichobothria, very sensitive to sensing vibrations and stuff like that. And anything that lands on this funnel sheet right here is gonna trigger the senses of that spider and cause it to come out. Okay, so right here, I found an actual member of the Lycosidae, that other spider we was trying to look at earlier. That was an Agelenid. But this right here is a true Lycosid. And you can tell, hopefully you can see right there, if you look at the eyes, it's got those two large posterior median eyes, and then right underneath a row of four smaller eyes. So it's got those two large posterior median eyes directly above both the anterior median and anterior lateral eyes. That's a little bit of spider morphology jargon for you all. But yeah, that's how you tell it's a wolf spider, by looking at the way the eyes are you know, positioned on the cephalothorax. Yeah, family Lycosidae, the family of wolf spiders. And I believe this is in the genus Schizocosa. I looked it up earlier, and I think it's in the genus Schizocosa. I'm not entirely sure what the species is Any arachnid experts out there, you know, please let me know. The reason I think it's in schizocosa is because of that vertical striping on the abdomen or the epithysoma. So you look at the way it moves, very fast. It's a pursuit predator, essentially. Pursuit and an ambush predator. It'll just roam around, doesn't really make a web and sit in the web. It uses silks for an egg sac to basically keep its eggs all together in one place. Wolf spiders or lycosids are known to exhibit maternal care too after their young are born. They'll actually hitch a ride on the female's epithysoma for some time before they're ready to venture out for themselves. You know, kind of taking advantage of the protection that mom might have. Okay, there we go. There's a better look. Oh, I hate this camera. Hold on, let's get it out more. Come on, come on. Okay, yeah, so right there, I think that's Agalenopsis. And she looked like she's been eating well too. Look how fat that epithysoma is. Yeah, I don't have a camera to get in that close to the eyes, but the eyes are basically set up in a different arrangement as compared to that wolf spider we saw earlier. But this is in the genus Agelenidae. And one of the reasons I know that is because of this classic funnel-shaped web that it's got right here. Looks similar to the wolf spider though, huh? Similar to lycosis. But obviously, again, like I mentioned, they have a different eye arrangement. And also, they have different tarsal tufts on their feet. And probably a different arrangement of trichobothria, which are sensory hairs on its legs. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Agalenopsis. If anybody knows better, please let me know. Okay, for some reason, my eye is open for spiders right now. Now, I know you can't really see in front of you, but like this right here, but maybe you could see this. Like I'm twitching it right now. This is a silk line, and it belongs to some sort of orb weaving species. And if you ever find a web like this, you can follow that silk line to where it's attached to the nearest tree, bush, building, or whatever, and then more than likely you will find the resident spider. And I seem to have found it right here. There it goes, moving. Right there. Now this is an interesting individual that I haven't discussed on this channel yet. So I just decided to catch it because it's easier to manipulate. So I think what we got right here, well, definitely what we got is another arachnid, another aranid, a true spider. And this one is in the family Tetragnathidae. And the way I can tell it's in the family Tetragnathidae is because of those right there. You see those like giant chelicerae. Most tetragnathids have these giant chelicerae, and they make orb webs, kind of like the orb weaving family, the Araneidae, but it's in a different family. And I'm not sure if they're related, if like the ability to build orb webs is homologous between the two species, or if it's like convergent. I'm pretty sure it's homologous. But yeah, this is Tetragnathes versicolor. Very, very common tetragnathed species all throughout the United States, especially in coastal areas and everything. Typically, you find these guys near water sources. You know, like you find them kind of making webs over streams. And unlike a lot of Araneids might build a web that's like kind of vertical. These ones typically build orb webs that are kind of like horizontal, probably taking advantage of flying insects that are falling or moving in an upward or downward motion. Whereas like Araneids are taking advantage of flying species that are moving like horizontally. But yeah, Tetragnathes versicolor. I think it's called versicolor because like there is a large versatility within the coloration of these species. They have those nice long legs too, and they could stretch those legs out in order to kind of look like a twig or blend into their background. Long-jawed orb weavers, Tetragnathidae. Go ahead and learn something. Oh, okay, just one more thing before we move on to another location. I wanted to highlight this plant. This right here is Quercus pacifica, aka the island scrub oak. And yeah, like I said, it's endemic. And in this case, you only find it really on the Channel Islands. Fajaceae is the family of oaks. And right now, it's early spring, so it's starting its bud burst. A lot of these leaves that you're seeing are like brand new leaves that are popping out right now, and soon it'll produce acorns, because that's what oaks do. They produce acorns. Oh yeah, but so this is why I think it might be Quercus pacifica, is because of this acorn shape right here. The acorns obviously aren't, oh damn it, so the acorns aren't on here anymore. They're gone. You know, this is just kind of like the top of the acorn. I forget the botanical term for this, but yeah, there were acorns on here and they fell off, probably carried away by some squirrel or a mammal or something like that, and hopefully buried to propagate somewhere else. If you're a seasoned botanist, again, call me out if you think I'm wrong. Another cool thing about this oak is like, oh shoot, you see See this, I think it's called fruticose lichen. It's basically three main types of lichen. There's fruticose, which is this right here, and you have crustose, which we saw on those rocks, and then you have something called foliose lichen, which kind of look like leaf shaped. But anyway, yeah, Quercus pacifica, rare plant, endemic to the Channel Islands off Southern California.